guys, and welcome back to another episode of Draw with T. Like I said in the last episode, for this episode, I am going to be drawing a full page of Humphrey the Dragon. Now, I think most of you that are following me actively on YouTube don't really have an idea who Humphrey is, but if there's some old hats in the audience, I am sure you're very happy right now. For those of you who don't know, I did a animation in school called Humphrey's Baggage, which stars Humphrey the Dragon, who's actually a side character in the story I'm writing. The story's called Calasmere, and he's kind of the helpful friend to our two protagonists. But as part of a college project, I just decided to do a quick, quote-unquote, quick little project where he was kind of the sort of center protagonist. And because of that, and the versions that I posted on YouTube, he kind of got a bit of a following, which is kind of ironic that him being a side character and his little story, Humphrey's Baggage, being just sort of a side project that got out of control. He's probably more well-known than the main characters or Calasmere, which is ironic. And I'll change that one day, mark my words. People will at least know of Calasmere's existence if they know Humphrey. Anyways, I'm just basically sketching him here. As I did with Tristan and Yuzette, I'm basically just doing this page of sketches to remind myself how to draw Humphrey. And I was a bit cocky, and I was thinking, you know what, I probably don't really need a page to do this, because, I mean, I literally at one point drew 1,000 or more panels with Humphrey in most of them. I've literally drawn this character probably more than I've drawn any character. Granted, that was a couple years ago, but I have kept current with drawing him, and there's just a certain kind of weird muscle memory when it comes to drawing him, which is good and bad. The good part is, yay, I know how to draw Humphrey, and also it's terrible because drawing 1,000 of something super fast sometimes locks in some bad habits. And I was finding a lot of those bad habits as I was drawing Humphrey here and in other points when I've tried to draw the character. He just seems to end up missing a good chunk of the back of his head, which I'm trying to fix. But it was actually a good thing that I decided to draw this page, because I was actually kind of rusty at drawing him. And it took me a while to kind of figure out what expression I wanted him to have in the little portrait that he was gonna get. And if you want to see that portrait, I'll be drawing that in the next episode. He's the first character where I don't just take some of the sketches that I drew here. I actually draw something from scratch for him in the next episode. But these were good warm-ups. And here I was also exploring possibly giving him like a tiny little mohawk frill thing. Kind of liked how it turned out in that sketch I just drew, but we'll see if it sticks around. His character design has kind of been locked in stone for a while, and I'm not sure if something like that is a worthwhile addition. But, that's what character design is about. It's about exploring those sort of things. But I wasn't really character designing Humphrey here. I was just trying to warm up on how to draw him and produce a little portrait that I could stick in his character document, so that if I ever needed to find his character document, it'd be super easy, because it'd just be a little image of Humphrey right there. He's actually got a lot of art, so his document's already chock full of that, but I just wanted something new, and it was good practice, because I'll be drawing characters that I've never drawn before, and that maybe don't have much of a description to them, and are gonna change lots, but, I need to invent something that's unique to them, which can be and will be a bit hard, because there are some characters that have the same sort of generic description. It's like long blonde hair, tall, pale. It's a bit hard because they're related, so they can't really go too far an extreme of the differences there, but they do need to look different. And I'll only really have one page or an evening to really nail that for those characters. But Humphrey's quite a unique character. There's no other dragons in the story, and that's kind of a plot point. But I don't know how much you guys want to hear about my story, especially just hear about Humphrey. It's kind of a big, complicated thing to talk about. I could go on about it for hours and hours and hours. One thing I really like about Humphrey's character is how expressive he is, and I really wish my human characters were as expressive as him, and I don't know why that they just don't seem to have that. Anytime I seem to draw these sort of different characters, usually kind of animals, but sometimes things like robots even, they just turn out quite just so much more expressive than when I draw humans. And I remember one of my teachers said maybe you should try drawing your humans as if they were animals. You know, like a sly character might look a little bit like a weasel or, something like that. And it's a great idea. And I've kind of tried it, but it just doesn't... It's not quite the same. It seems to be, when I have it in my head that I know I'm drawing a human, just all the magic leaks out of my pencil and not onto the page. And I think that maybe has something to do with having it beat into me that, this is the anatomy of a human. This is the nuances of the bicep. You have to get that right. The eyes go here, the nose goes here. And, this is how it looks. And having seen so much more realistic reference than cartooning reference, and literally doing hundreds and hundreds of pages of more realistic stuff, it's just a little bit harder for me to naturally, do some extreme cartooning that can match a character like Humphrey, because Humphrey is... there's not much about him that I could easily translate to my other human characters. I mean, he's got a massive jaw, he's got horns, he's got fins that emote, his eyes are kind of a little bit bigger, and, my human characters, you can do that, but there's just, the application isn't applicable, Humphrey's design is more masculine in some senses, and, I don't really have a character that needs a massive, strong, dragon-like jaw, as it were. Not that I need to make them like Humphrey, but going back to the drawing characters like animals, it could be helpful, but mostly just for minor characters that are mainly defined by a single characteristic or two, like this character is sneaky, and they're not to be trusted, so they might look like a bit of a weasel. But what do you do when it's your protagonists and they're not easily summed up as they're slow as a sloth or as spiny as a porcupine? What do you do when they have more depth and there's not really a character or an animal that you attach to them? Now, this drawing is kind of unique and kind of fun because here I realized that the back of Humphrey's head kept kind of getting missing. So I sort of started sketching that in a profile view just to kind of figure it out. I think there's still some work to do here. I don't quite like whatever it is I kind of drew at the back of the neck. But, we're kind of getting a little bit closer to giving him more of a back of the skull that feels appropriate. Although in that portrait view, I think I drew his snout just a little too short. It's kind of hard to draw such an emotive character the same way over and over again. I'm not entirely sure how the people at Disney and other animation studios do it, other than simply being that good and having practiced it quite a bunch. Obviously, if you have a character Bible to follow, that helps, but to have a character Bible to follow, you need to develop the character enough to have a character Bible. And as I've just said, the issue I'm having is consistency, so it's hard to just mandate a certain amount of consistency, because then you'll run into, I can no longer do this expression because I can't draw his eyes as high anymore. But if I don't, then, you lose the iconic look. But then if you draw the eyes too high and somewhere else, it looks weird. But it's something that'll come with time. I'm sure as I draw more, I'll get better. I'll probably have to draw about 10,000 Humphreys before I just nail him instantly. But, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just how art is. You got a lot of drawings to get out. You just gotta draw them and do that, and then you'll get really good. And with this sketch, I really struggled with trying to get the jaw right, and I realized it had something to do with, again, kind of the back of Humphrey's head sort of being ambiguous in space, and I wasn't quite sure where that was, and I realized the jaw was a bit wonky. This was originally going to be the sketch I was going to take into Photoshop and kind of finish up, but it just didn't quite feel right, and I didn't feel like spending a lot of time fixing it up as I had with Yzette previous to this. Also, guys, let me know if you have actually seen Humphrey's Baggage. There's been several versions of it released. I did release one relatively not long ago, which hasn't gotten too many views. So if you go looking for it, just go looking for the newest version. I believe it's under the title V8, as in version 8. I don't know exactly what I titled it, but you'll know it when you see it because it won't be a Draw with T episode. And I believe it was the last thing I uploaded before I started doing these videos. It's kind of old now. I know I can do better storyboards and stuff, but a lot of people still love it. So, if you haven't seen it, go look at it. Let me know what you think. And now we're basically getting near the end here. At this point, I was just filling up the tiny gaps with little doodles, trying to think up something I wanted Humphrey to look like in the portrait I had to do of him. And I think I did do one that I was happy with, but I actually think it was after I recorded this. I just happened to sort of doodle it out on the page as I was on a phone call or something. But anyways, I'm going to bid you guys farewell. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't, and have a good day, evening, night, whatever time it is, and hope to see you guys in the next episode.